Hi there. My name is Ananda Forrest, and this is good news about the world falling apart. If you've tuned into any of my other episodes, you'll know the title of this podcast comes from my recent book, Good News About the World Falling Apart, The Third Turning of Human Consciousness. Again, if you're curious about what the earlier turnings were or what the third turning is, check out some of my previous episodes. We're on the cusp of the third turning, which really is the third major paradigm shift. The first was fire and language, the second was agriculture, and now we're at the opening of the heart. Paradigm shifts are hard, right? We often say, oh, it's a paradigm shift. A real paradigm shift is going to make you shit your pants, right? It's going to feel like the world's falling apart. It's going to be something crazy, like getting your oxygen out of atmosphere instead of water. This is an early turning, way before there were mammals. We're going back now about 350, 400 million years to the Late Devonian Extinction. And up to that point, all vertebrates, right? Every animal with a backbone lived in the ocean. They were fish. They were all fish or varieties of fish. Everybody knew oxygen comes out of water. It only comes out of water. And true enough, you take them out of the water, they would drown in air, in oxygen-infused atmosphere. And that worked great for a billion years, all animal life was in the ocean. But at the time of the Late Devonian Extinction, things got a little wonky. There was some serious climate change. Again, they don't entirely know what caused it. It could have been a meteorite. It could have been massive volcanic activity that spewed unimaginable amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere. But the end result is completely not up for debate, which was warming oceans and increasing ocean hypoxia, which is a reduced amount of oxygen in the ocean. So basically, if you were counting on the ocean for oxygen, you were shit out of luck, right? Because there was less and less of it all the time. And again, this happens slowly, probably over millions of years. But to make a long story short, 75% of animal life went extinct. Right? They couldn't get enough air to breathe. It got too warm for their conditions their shells or prey required, and they died. I mean, it was terrible. A mass extinction, 75%. 3/4 of animal species stopped existing. There was one outlier that nobody would have noticed because the world is big and people weren't really paying attention. They didn't have the consciousness to pay attention. Tiktaalik, who'd probably been cooking up this scheme for millions of years in shallow, slowly evaporating tropical oceans, developed the rudiments of feet and lungs, as we know them, and managed to make its way out of the ocean. That didn't just happen one day. Its ancestors probably spent millions of years spending more and more time getting their air out of atmosphere, walking instead of swimming. But again, when things got bad, they were ready. So while 75% of their fellows were dying, they just crawled out of the ocean and got the air they needed. And it's believed that all land vertebrates today are descended from this one bold innovator. I mean, imagine that. One species alone made this breakthrough out of millions of species. And yet, because of that one tiny breakthrough 400 million years ago, animal life as we know it on land, right, with backbones and feet and lungs that breathe air, were made possible. Outrageous! But think of how radical that concept was, right? Nobody followed him. Nobody could follow him. And I use that as an analogy for how the third turning or any paradigm shift comes. It doesn't become an overnight sensation like Coca-Cola or an iPhone, right? Typically, it happens out of sight, out of mind by a very small number of organisms. And yet, the truth of it is so inarguable that it leads to success beyond that which any species alive at the time could have imagined. When Tiktaalik was cooking up its crazy, wild scheme, this is so crazy, it might just work. Everybody else was living in the ocean like they always had, and they stayed that way. And they didn't evolve a whole lot, right? Look at fish evolution in the last 350, 400 million years. There's not been a lot of progress. Whereas look at what's happened on land, because it is so much easier to get oxygen out of atmosphere than it is to get oxygen out of water. Ever heard the expression getting blood out of a stone? That's like getting your air out of water. Whereas if you can access it from the atmosphere, so much less of your resources have to go into procuring oxygen. And it leaves all this energy open to do all kinds of cool things like opposable thumbs. Whereas look at the general consciousness of fish, right? The expression fish-eyed, ring a bell? Fish have not evolved a great deal in 400 million years. Whereas look at what terrestrial vertebrates have accomplished in 400 million years. So in any case, radical shift, getting what is most precious to us, oxygen, from a completely different source. Radically different source, a life-threatening source. That is a perfect Polaroid snapshot of what a paradigm shift looks like in the moment. And oxygen still is more valuable to us than anything else. You can live without water, money, love for quite a while compared to how long you can live without oxygen. It is free and it's unlimited. And I'm going to be returning to this. What is more precious to you than anything else is absolutely free and completely unlimited. And the only person in charge who can control how much you breathe or don't breathe is you. And that's why every worthwhile meditation practice under the sun involves conscious breathing. Notice how deep and full your breaths are. The 3-part yogic breath is the best example of that. You may think money or your girlfriend or your job is more important, but put them down for 2 minutes and see how you go without them, and then see how you go without oxygen for 2 minutes, right? It all comes back to breath, conscious breath. It's the solution. It's the answer. And of course, where's your breath going? To your lungs. And what are your lungs? Your lungs are the servants of your heart. It's all about the heart. But coming back, aside from oxygen, what is most valuable? What are we told is most valuable? Money. How happy do billionaires look? They may look excited about their party or smug about how rich they are, but generally, how at peace does a billionaire look to you? I mean, if they were really at peace, why are they all chasing more billions with such ferocity? We believe down to our toes that it's stuff that's going to make us safe and happy and content. And I would argue that's about as advanced as a fish thinking that what it needs most is the oxygen it gets out of water, out of solid stuff. What if, after we've germinated the heart, opened it up with gratitude and compassion, love, kindness, joyful service, helping people who don't know what to do, and you have the wisdom, you have the technology, you have the skills, you get to help them change their lives. Can you put a dollar value on that satisfaction? But I'm still worried about money. And people get so worried about money, they can't sleep. People get so worried about money, they will do terrible things because they believe so deeply as any fish, that what is most precious comes out of solid stuff. For the fish, it was water. For us, it is goods, gold, land, real estate. And yet, at the end of the day, you sit alone in your room with all that stuff, and how fulfilled are you? How joyful are you? How kind are you? And the big clue, my friends, is how do we come into this world? And how do we go out of this world? Any of that stuff coming with us? And we may think, my birth was a long time ago, right? You didn't feel that way when you were being born. Let me tell you, it was forever. And, I'm going to die. That's another day's problem. Sure. The capacity for denial. It's one of our greatest superpowers. But you die with nothing. You're born with nothing. What are we being told? We're naked under all those clothes and all that stuff. That's how we are. And my heart is just as naked now as it was when I was born and as it will be when I die. And that is the most precious thing I carry. And that's what we need to figure out. And then we'll actually be walking upright. We're on all fours right now. You want to get up on your hind legs and walk with your heart up, offered to the earth, a reflection of the sun. Open up your heart. Germinate the heart seed. Leave the ocean. Follow Tiktaalik. The air is fine. Hey, thank you so much for listening. Again, my name's Anand DeForest. This is good news about the world falling apart. Be sure to check out my other episodes. Hit the like button, tell your friends, and buy the book. All righty. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you on the flip side.